Hello and welcome to Coxey's Picks, and today we're going to be looking at these. These are a folding rigid, sometimes referred to as a hinge rigid. However, you can see that they're folded, and in a second you'll see they go rigid. A piece of metal from here and here springs out and interlaces into a void in there, which you should also see later on. You can see it's got a double lock either side, and you can see that there is no keyhole visible whilst it's in the folded state. And you can also notice that there is a brand name that may be familiar with historians on cuffs, and it's called HIATT. And what's really cool is that on one side it's got a UK patent number, and if you can see here, this is the US patent number. And if I flip it over, you'll see the UK one. There we go, the UK one, which is kind of cool because at the time HIATT was owned by BAE, and so they were patenting in the UK and the States accordingly. Now that's going to be important later on when we see the next generation. But here we go. So this it is. What is it? Well, it is, voila. That's it. We've got a rigid cuff. Now it's kind of cool in the fact that it starts off folded. The idea was it was going to be a compact cuff and then springs into life as a rigid. It is actually larger than a TCH 840, not by much. The TCH 840 comes to here and here, but that means that most escape tools and positions of hands are a little bit different if you're used to getting out of 840s. In the center you can see that we've now got a keyhole. This is to undo the hinge, and if you look carefully down the slots you can see the metalwork embracing the cuff itself. Now we've got two keyholes. Now that they're visible we can actually use the cuff. So what we've got, well, we've got a 25 position superior bow, and across here that means that we've got 25 different possible categories where we can put it into, and it is exactly the same spec as their superior range at the time in the HIATTs. And if we look inside the cuff, this is going to get quite interesting. We've got three pawls that all independently move, right? They are sprung by a spring, a simple spring which has got a single split in the middle. Why is that important? Well, what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and half bend this so that we can see what's going on, and I will point out a few of the things that's occurring, so bear with it. Right, once we just put it into a sort of a janky position like that, there we go. Right, as you can see we've got the three pawls like so. If I move pawl number 1, it bounces up, the other two stay static. If I move pawl number 3, which is on this side, the other two stay static like so. However, if I move the center one, which is actually going over both halves of the spring, they all drop. So there we go, just like that. Right, and that's it. That's the weakness. Got to get that middle one. All right, so that's what we're going to aim for. Let's just reset the cuff back into rigid mode. There we are. So to pick this, we need to catch all three pawls at the same time, or we need to catch that middle one. There is a double lock on this, and as you can see, this is the earlier generation. We've got a round plug on this, so we can set the double lock like so. And that's the double lock set. Now what's really cool about it is we're just going to aim about here and then nudge the whole bar across. It really isn't a very tough security device. It's not, because it's a safety device. So there you are, that's it, it's no longer set. And what we're going to do is we're going to use my pointy pokey proddy thing with a slight bend. As you can see, got a bit of an aerodynamic bend there, and we're going to place it in, and then hopefully it will catch all three at the same time, just like that, which it does. If it doesn't, what you can do is you can tap the bow and do a little bow press, just half of it in, and that causes all three pawls to line up, and then obviously you'll catch the middle one as you're going through. Quite simple to pick when it's on the bench. The difficulty is when you're wearing it. So this was the first generation. As you can see, we've got 2 bolts there, and we've got 4 securing over the back. So let's have a look at the next generation. The next generation that came through, also made by HIATT. The major change here was they decided for some reason to use a square plug. Now you're going to ask, why is there a square plug? Well, that is because this version was susceptible to a whack attack. What does that mean? That means you can hit it against an object and the double lock will spring off. The square ones, they tried to eliminate it. It is still vulnerable. However, we have still got the same pattern numbers on the other side. And there we go. Right, and now I did say that I would show you the insides. Well, not quite the insides. I took off the plastic body. If we watch here, right, now that we've got a bit more space, I can point it out. You can see that the metal has slid into the cuff. There it is. There's the bar, and there's the bar there. Right, and you can also see that these two huge great holes are for holding the plastic. And that is just these bits here. So trying to peel this off to find an easy way in, you won't find one. You'll just find big solid bits of metal. What I did find quite amusing is that this seems to be a paint by numbers cuff. What do I mean by that? Well, it means that we take part number 11 and we attach it to part number 12. We flip it over, we can then attach it to number 13, number 14, got it all lined up, there we go, let's rivet it. So yeah, I thought that was kind of cool that we can see a little bit of the manufacturing process as it's going through. Kind of cool. So, what happened next? Well, interestingly enough, HIATT's closed. Oops. And HIATT's was no more. And because HIATT's was no more, what they decided to do was, well, they thought, we'll sell it. So they sold the brand. They sold the brand to Safariland, and Safariland said, do you know what, you got a US patent, so that's brilliant, so we will manufacture it with our own logo, just like so. So you got that one there, and this is the United States version. What's different? Well, it doesn't feel quite the same build as HIATT's. It's almost the same, right? It's got the triple pawl and everything else, but something doesn't quite feel right. And I'm not quite sure. I can't put my finger on it. I think it's probably the fact that it vibrates more than Mum's drawer on an evening. So let's move that to one side, right? And then think what happened. Well, after HIATT's closed, a company moved in to the factory, called themselves Total Control Handcuffs, and they came up with this. Spookily enough, it looks exactly the same, but this is now known as the TCH 850. Right? The 850 was also part of their new range that they brought out, including the 840, which was their rigid. And as you can see, there's the difference in the size. Right, you can see there that they are a little bit closer, but not too far off. Now, what does this incorporate to the party? Well, we've got back to the round plugs. Guess what? We can wrap attack these, and we've also got the triple pawl. And oh, well, this is a bit of a shock. We haven't got keyholes on the rear. That's a bit of a problem, which I'll explain now. So, if you are having it in the folded situation, you've got no access to the keyways, and you're bored, because let's be honest, people are bored, and you decide to stick this on your Oppo, a table leg, well, that's it. You're going to have to learn how to shim these. That's going to be problematic, because when it's on your person, you can only move it about yay far, and that is not going to be easy to get into the keyway. Trust me, I know. And there we go. So that's that out. Alright. What do we need to do there? Well, TCH said actually that's a little bit unsafe because lots of people will get bored, and they came up with the 852. So let's just get it out of the holster. Oh, which by the way you can see is nice and convenient. It's huge. Right, and here we have the TCH 852. Right, and as you can see, we've got the keyholes in the same place, so I'll hold it up and marry it up so you can see. Right, but also magically we've got another set of keyholes on the back. This was their solution to the age-old problem of, oh dear, my partner has decided to play a funny on me. Now you've got access to the keys, you can get it off. Still got the circular keyway, and so we still know that we can wrap these off. However, good luck, because the current handcuffing procedures puts your hands in an unusual position and you won't be able to knock them off. So there we are. That's kind of cool. But I did mention shimming, so I suppose we better cover that. So if we go back to all the way back to the start, back to our first generation. There we are. Right, what do we need to know about shimming these? Well, we want to catch all three pawls at the same time. So I would suggest that we have a piece of metal that fits the whole of the cuff tray. So if I just get this one to go back into its janky half up, half down, you'll be able to see what I mean. Right, so I take my piece of metal and I want it to fill the whole of that tray all the way over, covering all 6 of the teeth, or as many of the teeth as I can. I quite like this design. This is 0.3 mil thick, right, 3 mil wide, and 33 millimeters long. Right, what's cool about it? Well, I don't have to bow press on the earlier generations. I can just push it into position. Like, oh, I'm sorry, you can see that I've got a hilt there. The idea with the hilt is so that it stops me from going too far. So I just line it up. I put a little bit of a push. It's gone up to the hilt, and guess what? We've shimmed it. So that is the design that I would highly recommend. Just like that. There are more shim designs like this mentioned in a book by a guy called Riley, and the book is called A Key by Any Other Name. It's available on Amazon. It only costs about £3 sterling or $3.80. So yeah, If you are going to get a set of these, I highly recommend that you don't mess around with them too much. You do sit and learn how they work on the bench, right? However, they are good fun. They do create some interesting challenges, and I can't wait to see anybody else who's got these, because there may well be a few of these going around the world to say hello to their newfound owners. You never know what may happen when the postie comes knocking on your door next. Thank you very much for watching. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.